This is Aura of Night, your fashion consigliere from Nytypical.net. Today's video is going to be about couture. First and foremost, I want to thank the Fashion Archive, AO, personally for the shout out on his video on YouTubers to watch. Hopefully, I can live up to the expectation of all of that. Anyways, to me personally, couture is about loving art, like fine art, to the nth degree. It's an order of magnitude higher than any other piece of fashion that you could consider as wearable clothes, because it's more than that. Like, if you really want to understand contemporary art and wearable art, or even just what the designer is thinking about, you looked to their couture collection. And I said looked because that isn't exactly what it is today. But yeah, you looked to their couture collection, and the way I was introduced to it was around in 2009ish. I was an art student, and really I'm just a student of the game. So every type of art that I knew about back then, which was basically fine art, anime, and fashion. So and well, games as well, but I didn't really consider that art back then. But I really just wanted to understand fashion, and as I said before, Cristobal Balenciaga, one of my biggest inspirations for even trying to look at art even deeper and understand it, and like just fill in the gap, because he was definitely considered master of us all when it comes to couture and everything that he's done within the fashion space, as well as Alexander McQueen, who's the most relatable person in the fashion zeitgeist to me personally. Now, really and truly, there's quite of a disconnect between the people that like to wear clothes or think they like to wear clothes, and people that are in fashion talking about art. Like I said, fashion is like the highest part, couture is about the highest version of art, and like not fashion today is the distinction of wearable art. And there's this chasm between watching runway shows, whereby the people who just kind of want to wear a designer to like as a status symbol, and the people that are looking at designers as artists. They don't understand each other. People don't understand why runway shows look like they do, because they are more contemporary art pieces than they are us watching ready to wear and merchandising on the runway. So there's the people that are like, what is this? I don't understand this. It's not clothes that I think are clothes. And then there's the people that are like, this is art, how come you don't understand this? That being said, this type of video is like filling in that gap between understanding why some people think like this and other people think like that. Like, which is a lot of the reason I want to say why streetwear kind of took over in the past like 5 years, because everybody understands a hoodie and everybody understands a t-shirt, but people that are into art are like, why is there a hoodie on the runway when it doesn't really speak too much? And other people are like, I want this hoodie to wear because it can fit easily into my wardrobe. Now, just to help everybody understand the levels in fashion, it's the blanks, like hoodies you get from Fruit of the Loom or Gildan or something, and then it's like merchandising, so things that you'll see in the stores, and like it's kind of like ready to wear, but it's not really. And then there's like the level above that, which is ready to wear. Then there's high fashion. Then there's haute couture, which is like somewhere off the screen. And then above that, then there's couture, and then there's haute couture, which is like the highest form of art. And any artist who's just creating wants to be on that level, although it's not economically friendly for designers, which is why they do the contemporary shows today, haute couture is really considered the highest form of art, and that is the only way that I can explain it. Now, the reason why there's a disconnect between the public today and what we've been seeing back then is because when you research it, and 2009 again, when I was researching 2010, 2011, when I was doing all my research and soaking up all of the information, back when you could Google something and it would actually show up, you saw that as you go further back in time, fashion wasn't open to everybody. It was those people, like, you would say Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and Eleanor Lambert and Diana Vreeland and Anna Wintour would open up fashion to the public, right? But then you keep going further back and you understand, like, from the 80s-ish, right after the Battle of Versailles and the advent of the supermodel and stuff, you didn't really see people understand what haute couture is, but you did see the influx of money coming into fashion. And as you keep going further back, it stopped being about the art and the artist with their clothes and people wanting a direct relationship with the designer and having more of a relationship with the clothes. And when we live and think about designers in the fashion world, on this side, it's like the Pucci woman, the Chanel woman, the Dior woman, all of these type of things, like the Fendi woman. You'll hear these type of conversations happening about what this person is supposed to look like, and you will get people buying pieces just to have a piece of the designer and want to be from them, if you feel me. There's people that live and die by a designer, and there's people that just want a piece of the clothing to style it a certain way, and both to me are personally really, really fine. But when we start getting further back, when complexions fade, it stops being about what you love and what you know and who you know and what you look like. So designers, especially like Cristobal Balenciaga, although he's one of my favorite, he was probably hella racist and stuff. That's neither here nor there. But Cristobal Balenciaga, he had a certain take on what a woman would be like. And we listened to Diana Vreeland and she would say something like, well, in my Cristobal Balenciaga video, she said something like, a woman wearing Balenciaga was the only woman in the room, or it seemed like that. And that just speaks to how he made clothes and the way that the clothes would react to the environment. Now, when it comes to the techniques and understanding all of what it is that's embroidery, what it is that's called manipulating fabrics, what's fabric engineering, which is really what couture is, and what's like couture stitching, like there's all of these other things that go into it that I can do an in-depth analysis on separately, but just for the principles of couture, you understand that there's a governing body, there's rules and regulations, not everything can be couture, and people that are making these things want to see a certain impact on the world. And today, more so, couture is about making people think about clothes differently, making people think about what they're wearing differently, or just art, like you would say Rei Kawakubo was that type of designer. So yeah, Rei Kawakubo makes clothes for like art purposes only, and a lot of normal people don't understand that. And of course, like, there's not really a dichotomy between like people that are outside fashion and inside fashion, but it does feel like that sometimes. Like, you can just do your research, but not everybody's willing to do that, and not everyone's willing to look into art like that. But yeah, as you get past the 50s, then you start seeing like, okay, this is more what is high society. Like when we start having celebrities and all of these things, the designers picked. So they had their own customer and clientele base, and couture basically starts at around 10k. So these people could afford couture. Not like without a shadow of a doubt. So you would be probably handpicked, or you would go to Paris. You would probably, you would go to a showroom, and you would see what the designer's making, and you'll say, I want this. And then you would go to a fair and you would converse with the designer, and they would be like, okay, me and you are gonna work together to make something great. And that's what you see in, to make you understand, that's what you see in the Met Gala. The Met Gala is definitely one of those places where it's like the designer, the celebrity, and Anna Wintour all talk months in advance, because really couture takes around 9 months to make. Anything couture takes like probably at least 9 months. It's all hand sewn and it's all like technical, and at least it was, especially back then. More so, you know, there can be some machine work, it's a bit more loosey goosey but there's a conversation that happens, and then in advance, then they make the clothes, and then the guys wear the clothes, whether it's like the Oscars, like whatever red carpet event is, and you see a couture dress, just know that that was planned so many months in advance. It's ridiculous. It's like making couture is an actual event. But yeah, you keep going back, and it's like, okay, now we're in the area where it's like, what is really couture? So I'm like haute couture. So what I really care about now is the types of fabrics that they're using. Not just fabric manipulation, but the type of fabrics they're using. People would search the earth and scour what are the techniques they're using in India? What are the embroidery techniques they're using in China? What are the looming techniques that they're using to make these clothes? And all of these other technical things, and like there's a lot of jargon that goes into it, but just to cut it down simply, there was certain techniques that not everybody knew about. There was certain dyeing techniques that not everybody knew about. There were certain printing techniques that not everyone knew about. And if you could discover it and find a way to use it, you would do that for your collection. And it was like when I was speaking about the 16th century and all of the influx of money that came in because of the slave trade and the New World and stuff, this was a lot of what they did when it came to the royals and the royal courts and all of these things. They got being a royal fashion designer back then was essentially couture. It was making clothes for an exceptionally rich person and living in the highest station in life. It was like either being a fashion designer, a musician, or a fine artist, right? A musician, a composer, as in like you done the orchestra and stuff. But yeah, it's like that was one of the highest stations that you could be at as an artist, saying Princess Diana wore my clothes or something, or King Charles wore my clothes, or it's not just clothes, but yeah, I'm speaking about it in a contemporary fashion, but it is essentially like that. That being said, what I want to impress onto everyone is that not everything can be couture. And I kind of got into it earlier, but I want to like just get in depth. So when we talk about the governing body, when we talk about the Syndicate de la Haute Couture and the school chambers of haute couture and all of these places, it's genuinely so different. So yeah, to round off this video, what's really happened is you are a haute couture designer, so you do have your certificates or whatnot. Like Guape had a contention where it was like she was demi couture, and it was like now, and then she had to get that's a certification, and then with the school chambers and stuff like that, and now she's shows in Paris and all of these things are happening, and now she's like haute couture. So it's just a generally a big deal because you have a massive client base for your art basically. Then there's like, so you have your client base, you do certain things with clothes like Iris Van Herpen, like Galliano for Margiela, like Claire Waite Keller for Givenchy, like Karl Lagerfeld done with Chanel, like Alexander McQueen done for Dior, like Galliano even done for Dior. He's been everywhere. And yeah, you act in a certain way and you show at these certain times and you have your schedule for couture. That's what's clear, I guess. Yeah. Thank you for listening. This has been ARAH of NYTYPRCAL or Aura of Night. The charismatic consigliere, Cristobal's bodyguard, the debonair dandy of a Queen's Muse himself. If you actually want an in-depth analysis on anything that I spoke about, like the embroidery techniques and what actually happened during those times for couture, or like just anything on the timeline from now to 1600s, then definitely comment down below with the type of videos you would actually like to see. And I really enjoy talking about couture as well as menswear, and I want to like just help everybody understand it. Just, you know, your fashion consigliere helping, you know, people that are like me gain more knowledge. And yeah, I can't wait to make another video for you guys. Peace.